It's an insight, yes, it focuses on what's best about us as human beings and suggests how we can build on that knowledge. A lot concepts weren't totally new even then. A lot of humanistic psychology was incorporated into positive psych, and that was my background already. The most useful development was that serious research was finally being done to validate and apply theory to daily life, and that research still continues. The contributors to the manual searched for signs of universal, timeless values present in all cultures. They concluded that nearly every human society recognizes six great virtues, and the names they gave them are humanity, wisdom, justice, temperance, courage, and transcendence. They also identified 24 character strengths. These are concrete behaviors that express the different virtues, and they grouped them according to commonalities. So, for instance, three strengths, love, kindness, and social intelligence, are all expressions of the virtue of humanity because they are each an interpersonal form of the tendency to tend and befriend. So, some of the virtues have five character strengths under them, and some have less. Basically, character strengths are the innate human qualities that give our species the potential to create the greatest good for ourselves and others. They are the foundations beneath our other abilities, such as our unique skills and talents and interests. Today, we're going to explore the many ways that strengths can be deployed at any age and in many different situations, especially when we want or need to make those meaningful changes I mentioned. Psychological research shows that character strengths boost our overall happiness when we understand how to use them appropriately. That's why putting theory into practice is so crucial. So, any questions now, and you can use voice or text about character strengths in general? Have I sort of beaten them into the ground for you? Anybody have anything you want to add in here? I learned this from General Herron to put in pause so you know. Right, right. We'll talk about some of this. Right. But anybody else have any questions at all? Or is it pretty clear? Yeah, and I hope we'll talk. You'll talk more about that with us later on, Lear. Okay. So let's start by pretending we're coming to this place for the self-guided activity. It's built for that, and also we could then use it, of course, for workshops, but anybody can come and visit. So if the visuals for here remind you of a board game like Candyland, you were right. John, I think back above, I may kind of define them as much as you can. Okay. That's another question. Thanks, I. There are a lot of seats behind, all around the park, by the way. You'll hear me from everywhere, so please don't feel like you got to be in front of the sign at all. Okay, there are a lot of spaces way in the back if you just go there. And we have a chat extender, so if you type, everybody should be able to see it no matter where you sit. So no two trees in this park, actually, if you look at it, are the same. I did that deliberately, and most change with the seasons. We can say the same thing about the combination of strengths that each person has. Please look in the folder I gave you. The folder is also in the box with our logo by the start sign if you don't have it. So just click on the start on the box. It says character strengths all over it, and you should get the folder. If you have any problems with it, just let us know here in the chat because I'm not checking my IMs, but I think nobody's sent me one. Okay. There are 4 note cards inside this folder. Number 1 is labeled Start Here, basic instructions for the game if you're coming by yourself, including how to identify your strengths by taking a validated survey or doing it more informally. Number 2 is called What Are Character Strengths? I've covered this pretty much already, but if you want to look at that, that may help you also. Number 3 is a snapshot of each of the 24 character strengths. Number 4 is how to wear your strengths in Second Life. We'll talk about that at the very end. You also have a landmark to this park if you want to come back. So please look at note card number 1 now. And for the Zoom audience, number 1 asks the learner to take a survey or use other means to identify their top strengths. It also explains what to do in the park after that. Now, one of the things I hope you will help me with today is as you're going through and reading these things, if you spot anything ranging from typos, which I'm very prone to things that are not clear to you, please make a note of them and send them to me later in IM or a note card because I want to keep improving the place. And certainly people have been doing this all along and helping me, but there's always room for more improvement. Now, has everybody got the folder? I should say, does somebody not have the folder is the way I should put it, right? Make more sense. So the VIA survey, that's values and action survey, I recommend for those who like surveys, and I do like them, is fairly short and has been well validated over many years now. The original survey on the University of Pennsylvania website is also free and is available in a lot of languages and even for different age groups, but it's a lot longer. So most people don't want to spend the time doing it, but I have done it. Yeah, Mary Lou, just the box you're standing on. Just click on it. I'll give you a few minutes here. Got it? Great. Okay, the surveys show you your top 5 strengths. They're called your signature strengths. The research behind strengths shows that learning to consciously connect and deploy them is a powerful tool for solving problems and improving many areas of life. Now, I did try to make the distinction between people's skills and interests and so on, and the strengths, which are kind of intrinsic values that human beings all seem to agree to in some degree. If you didn't take either survey, that's fine. Don't worry about it today. And some people never want to take it, and that's fine too. In the interest of time, we'll focus just on your top 2 strengths. If you've taken the survey, you can use those. If not, you can choose 2 from the list that speaks to you right away. Yeah, it's not very long, fortunately. That's what makes it easier because the other one takes about 40 minutes, I think. So the University of Pennsylvania one. But they've both been over time tested and they seem pretty accurate. Now I want to just repeat here how to take these tests or how to identify your strengths. They should be the ones when you look at the list, and on the list, each strength has a little capsule description of it. Of course, the pages are in the manual, there are pages that explain why it's been chosen and how it's been chosen and all of that. But this is like a shorthand way of looking at them. First of all, they should be the ones that are natural and easy for you to use, that bring out the best in you, that are energizing to you and meaningful to you. It's helpful, whether you take a survey or choose from the list, to base your top strengths on how strongly you identify with them and how often you tend to act on them in daily life, rather than there being an ideal you think you should aspire to. Many people fill out these surveys with, I think I'd like to be like this, but that doesn't help you here. And remember, excuse me, everything here is a strength. So we're not dealing with other kinds of approaches here. Look at note card number 3 and read through all 24 and decide on your top strengths. Just going to check and see where I am in my text here because I've got numbers of pages that I'm looking at. Okay. So once you have them, anybody have problems finding the strengths card or any problems with the card itself? If you do, just type any questions you have about it into chat here. Try to kind of channel your your inner self here to see which of them leap out at you. And so pick those two. That you think are the ones you use the most. Once you have them, if you got them already or you are, once you get them, get up and stroll around the park until you find the virtue posters with their names on them. And then click on those virtue posters and read the note card inside them. So that's something you can start doing now. You'll also see the names of your strengths. I'm losing my voice here. I'm sorry. Hovering over each of the objects on top of their posters. Click on them to read more about those strengths. Try to answer the questions inside each strength object. P.S. I recommend strolling, actually doing it, because moving your avatar will help you see the park from that perspective and give you a different kind of experience from simply using your camera. To try it, walk around and find your two strengths. If you're having trouble finding your strengths, you can make a comment here or even IM me to help you. Glad to do it. And while you're doing this here in World, I'm going to add a few personal comments for the Zoom audience. What's your heavy question, Shiloh? The buzzword concept emotional intelligence is the forefront today. How do you see character strengths being used when applying EI, enhancing it, and how to benefit most? Well, can we do that later on when we kind of start working with them? Right now, I just want to go through the process and just then paste it again into chat. That would be really helpful. That's a great question. Okay. So while you're walking around, I'll just talk a little bit about my experience with these. I've been taking the VIA sporadically for over almost 20 years, and my reports have been pretty similar. But when I took the VIA again this year, I was surprised to see that my top strength, which is curiosity over and over again, has moved down to number 6, not even in the top 5. And love of learning, which is described as you have a passion for acquiring new knowledge and skills throughout life, is now number 1. Both curiosity and love of learning are considered cognitive strengths, part of the virtue of wisdom, and those strengths are all considered cognitive strengths. The difference between them seems to be that I've moved from exploring everything, which I love to do, to focusing more on deepening and organizing my knowledge. In fact, the only strength that stayed in my top five is gratitude. One of the strengths that moved up into the top five is humor, a transcendence virtue. And the description of humor is you have a large capacity to bring laughter, amusement, and lightheartedness to others and in the way you view yourself. And I don't know much about the first part, but the second part feels right. I have learned not to take myself too seriously, and I do that over and over again. Thinking about it, I attribute these shifts to the time I've spent in Second Life. So you might reflect on whether Second Life has affected the expression of some of your strengths. We can all use these aha moments. I should emphasize that top strengths are very relative. Sometimes there are minuscule differences between their places on the scale. And what about our lower strengths? Are they weaknesses? My lowest strengths have not moved. That's made me consider whether I want to work on something that doesn't come naturally to me, but is pretty valuable in life. In fact, one of my lowest is low for most people, according to the research. Can you guess what the lowest strength is if you look at the 24? And type your answers in chat. What do you think most people have as their lowest strength? Lear says, for me, it's temperance. Which of the strengths in temperance? That's the virtue. Pick one of the strengths. Well, anyone who knows you, leadership might be low for many people. Perseverance, Cassie asks. You know that Lear says self regulation is it. Zinnia says forgiveness. Sheila says prudence. And Lear says, I teach 10 to 12 classes a term. Leadership for sure, Jen says. Prudence Cat says. Okay, well, let me tell you what it is. Self regulation, which means you have the great ability to manage your emotions, thoughts, and behavior effectively. And remember, the theory says that everything in the park is a strength. Now, this is one of my lowest ones, also, Lear. So I'm with you, but I'm with a lot of people. Okay. And one of the highest for everybody. Can you guess what one of the highest is for everybody? Look at that one too. Think about that one too. What's one of the highest strengths that most people have? Jen says compassion. That's not in this group per se. Overcommitment. Yeah, I know, Lear. Me too. Forgiveness, Shiloh says one of the highest. Creativity, Jen says. Lizard says curiosity. Lizard, you got it. Mary Lou, curiosity is one that most people in the world have as their first one, their top one. And you can see why human beings are building AI and everything else because it comes out of that curiosity. So I'm going back to the theory says everything is a strength. It's how naturally, easily, and often you use it that's being measured. So think about that. What's being measured here is how naturally, easily, and often you use it. Sometimes it's worth looking at your lower strengths too, and I do have found that to be true. Not that I can do a whole lot about it, but I can at least, you know, take responsibility for it. So now we all have our top two strengths, right? Everybody got two? And let's see how we can use them skillfully and in new ways. Anybody need more time? If you need more time, let me know. Okay, nobody's saying anything. Skillfully and in new ways are key ideas here. So think about what that would look like for you with the strengths, the two strengths you have chosen. Would anybody like to share your two top strengths and your answers to the questions on their note cards? And just for again, for the audience, I'd like to put out these are the questions every note card asks. What do you like about having this as a top strength? Number two, does using this strength too much ever cause you problems? And number three, how might you actively use your top strengths as a group, as all five, to improve your areas of your life? So let's modify that to how might you use your two top strengths to improve your life? So you have all five to go to. So Lear says, Lear, do you want to talk? You want to speak?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay. We do character strengths research.
I know you
we
do. That's why
we
I was so
use it to
happy to have
keep
you
us on
here.
fire. So rather than, and we do map these to the plutonium virtues, and we think about these characteristics as you have here, how you've grouped them. But we also think about how we strengthen one another in the team. And that's really how we use them. With Barbara Truman, we shared both of our strengths in a session, wow, in 2016 and
Wow. Yeah.
earlier, the last 10, 12 years. And then we have, as you know, exhibits set up and a game set up that also thinks about which of your virtues are for yourself and which are for others, your service to others, and then which ones are related to your heart and which ones are related to your mind.
Right.
So, yeah, so we start classifying them that way and then thinking about how each of us uplifts the others when we feel frail or weak. And we keep really busy. We have over 20 grids of game simulations and content, and of course, we need strength, right, to keep up with all the work. So I think of it as reinforcing and uplifting. Oops, and I'm getting a call. My apologies. I'll pass the mic back over to you.
I'm just going to type in here the virtue note cards. If you saw the virtue for each of your strengths, if you read that, it give tell you which are heart and mind um, strengths. So she was talking about some which are heart and which are mind. So you can kind of guess, I think, which are considered heart strengths, which are considered mind strengths, more or less. Anybody else want to talk about your two that you came up with, and just or play with us with a little bit about them? Did any of them surprise you? Did you get any surprises? Let me just put this up so I can read what people are saying.
While you're doing that, teamwork surprised me because in school, which of course was ages ago, right? Um, I ran roughshod over my poor teams because we must get an A. And so so I wasn't always the best team player in the sense of giving everyone time to fail. I wasn't really into the failure path. So of course, it shocked me that teamwork was, like my number one. But
Yeah,
when I think about it, working with Virtual Harmony for the last, 15 years has taught me the value of teamwork and how we strengthen one another. And we've I've completed 353 presentations and close to 50 published works because of my team. And so that's the value of teamwork, right?
right. And this shows you again, it was what I was saying before, which is that the the location of the different strengths to the top ones can shift with time, with experience. There's a neuroplasticity about them, which is good, right? You don't want to maybe be stuck in the same ones all the time and never benefit from experience. So I made we can read maybe let me just read a couple of these because they're lovely things people are saying here. Um, Cassie says gratitude and curiosity were her two top ones. Being more willing to open the door when opportunity knocks, saying yes more than no. Kat says, I'm sure about the love of learning. And, Lear said teamwork surprised her. Jen says no, she didn't have any surprises. And Kat says the second one, I guess, was not so surprising. Or I'm not so sure about you didn't know about you didn't weren't sure about the second one, Katz. I'm not sure. You can talk. And Kat says I need to take the survey. Yeah, I do find that the survey was helpful because if I had simply done what I usually do, which is look at these and say,
Yeah.
okay, well these are my top ones. I wouldn't have
Yes.
picked the ones that actually came from the survey, which surprised me.
I feel, yeah, like I'm guessing and not.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
but
so many that I would identify with, but it's really hard to pick.
yeah. So I do try to encourage people to take the survey. It's free, you know.
I need to do that. I just
Yeah.
didn't have time once I
Yeah,
found
I
it.
know. I know. But this is just a chance for me to see how it is for you to be here because I'm learning from you guys and from you to, see what you can get from it. So, and Sheila says my top two were love of learning and curiosity. That wasn't a surprise. Ree says a great point of how the people in your teams, communities work and how the people around you can combine to overcome some of your weaker ones and just, I wouldn't call it weaker, I would say lower ones and magnify some of your higher strengths. I think we need to think in terms of higher and lower rather than weaker and stronger. Professor Graceful says love of learning is not a surprise. That's my number one. Kat's saying the plus side of aging. And Lyra says our accomplishments are due to our shared strengths. And Zinnia says hard to pick, but being able to express a strength in a new way is awesome. Bravery is one of mine. It can be a positive and a negative. Yeah, I think well, later on, we'll talk a little bit about this, which is this, Lear says, which is wild, as I never thought that teamwork would be my number one, but it is, and I value my teams. Um, she's looking at, she lists all of her teams. Okay. Jen says I've taken the survey twice. Yeah, I've taken it over time. Sometimes I've even just take it twice, just because to see if they agree. The survey also shows you all of your 24 kind of in relation to each other, which is really interesting, which is where you get to your bottom ones too. And I says I'll share a little bit about transcendence in a few minutes. That'd be great. Um, let's see, where else? I was shocked that love of learning was not my top five, but it's close behind. And Jen says, I think of circles spreading out around me. And Sheila says, my third, fourth, and fifth were appreciation of beauty and excellence. No surprise there, Sheila. The love was a bit of surprise. Yeah, that interested me about myself too. Lear says, honesty is not always a positive. I worked on Capitol Hill in environmental politics in the 80s. In DC, honesty is not a power skill. Okay. All right, let me see what else I have written here on my little thingy. Are there any questions or comments? We've made some questions and comments. Great. Any questions anybody has at this point before we go on? So what you're talking about, Jen, how much I need to use a particular skill, is part of what we're talking about of being aware of the skills and how much or how little you're using them, because that awareness gives you the opportunity to make changes. Positive psych research keeps stressing. Okay, I don't want to go here yet, or maybe I can. Keep stressing the importance of celebrating people and their wins. Yes, I can. This is one way to do it, to celebrate people and their wins. You can actually wear your strengths in Second Life. I think Stranger is already doing it. And I'm going to stand up. Okay. Um, just right click on your objects to copy on the posters to copy them to your inventory. Then use the attachments feature to attach them to your Avi. That way your avatar is protected from any unwanted changes. So let me just help you with this. Do this. going to show you something. The magic of Second Life is this. There I am. This is Strengths List. You can see that I attached 5 objects to my skull, arms, and chest. And when I got them, you can move them around using the edit arrows. So you can, they're hanging out there. I just pulled them in to where I wanted them to be. And now I saved it and made an outfit out of it. And you can do the same thing. And that's the fourth, if you look at the fourth note card in there, it gives you a whole series of simple steps that will let you do this same kind of thing. Now, I just want to point out something. The interesting thing about literally wearing my strengths, I have found, is that I naturally use my intuition, what feels right, to place the objects where I place them on my body. That experience has connected me even more to my strengths. I have saved them as an outfit, and when I'm working with an issue, I put it on. Sometimes I decide to move the objects around. Each location seems to have a personal effect on me. So see if this can be helpful to you too. Anybody want to try it and show off? So this is how we can use Second Life specifically to quite literally connect to our strengths, something that isn't available outside, right? Be hard to run around putting objects on your body. By the way, I just want to add here that the objects I have here are created because of my poor building skills. So I needed objects that are modifiable, copyable, and transferable. And I couldn't find a whole lot of them. So I tried to get things that were approximated what I thought might represent each of the virtues. But my goal, really, the next step will be to see if I can get help creating objects and a different object for each of these different character strengths so that people can really feel the difference and see the difference between them that way. They'll have to be, as I say, copyable, transferable, and modifiable to work well. So I'm just putting it out there to anybody who would like to help with that process. Okay, so let me continue on here. Any questions or comments about this part? What do you think about the idea of wearing your strengths?
I think it's funny that I already had a butterfly on my shoulder.
Before you came in here?
Yeah, I walked right up to the sign and saw the butterflies and like, oh, this is just perfect.
That's the great way to think about your strengths, the one that really just draws you right away. And Sheila, for example, with yours, if you right click on your book and use the arrows, you can pull it right next to your body, wherever you set it. If you set it for your arm or your back or whatever, just the spine, they call it the spine, and the skull for the head you just bring it right over to your body and it won't hang out in the air. Okay. I hope you're having fun with this because that's the idea, that we want it to make it something that intrigues you and that brings out, kind of the child in yourself in the best possible way.
It's kind of why I wear a Tucklaw Quill top hat.
Okay. Same thing. Yeah. Yeah. So now it's going to be, let's do some more with this. Okay. How can you see people benefiting from using their strengths intentionally? What kinds of situations? And Lear, you've already suggested teamwork, that kind of thing. You type your thoughts in chat about how you would like to see it. You could imagine using it yourself or having people use it. What kind of situations where people could work together, or even think about all of their strengths and kind of create a sort of a mega tool from using all 5 of your top ones. Yeah, you assess each other's strengths and illustrate them. Yeah. Beyond the top 5, yes. There's so much I think we could have workshops here, if I can ever find the time to do it, to do some of these kinds of very specific laser-like kinds of uses of it, have some fun with it. I know I've seen your pillars, that's what when I saw them, I said, "Oh, we can do this in Second Life. Okay, I'm gonna find a way to do it." And this is my 4th iteration of this thing, and this is the one that is most developed. Okay, Professor Graceful says exercising leadership when there is a leadership void. Yeah. And Lyra says when we rank each strength and how we grow based on it. Yeah. And Zinnia says it's like my superpowers work. Yes. A lot of things that are happening now really came out of this whole positive psychology movement. I don't think people, since I was a therapist since the 80s, early 80s, uh, which was the middle of my life at that point, I'm very aware of the differences between then and now and what's available to people and how people look at things. And it's easier to talk about yourself this way. Yes. Although, do you find some of you that you get embarrassed about showing your strengths or talking about them or expressing, I mean, telling people that you have them? I felt a little embarrassed about a couple of mine because I thought, oh, it'll sound too woo woo, whatever. Yeah, I'm shy too. That way. I don't like to, kind of push myself out there. Zinnia, some of your bravery. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to throw out some examples too. How about families? Because we use this with families. What if you sat together and gave each other honest strengths compliments? Told each other, family members, the strengths you see in them. We don't do that often enough. I found that we often don't say to people the nice things we think about them. You know, we criticize. We criticize ourselves rather than saying the nice things about ourselves to ourselves, or even accepting compliments from other people. When I trained in Gestalt therapy, one of the big mantras everybody would say, take it in. When somebody would say something good, take it in. It was very hard to take it in. How about teams? Well, you already talked about it. How could that be game changing? What about schools? Can you imagine? I have a wonderful story. Uh, yeah, I have a wonderful, yeah, they're in moderating strengths. Yeah. And that we're talking about moderating your strengths, learning when you overuse them, learning when you don't do them skillfully and appropriately. You can just kind of use them like blunt force if you're not careful. Yeah, Liz, yeah, you can use them with work. That would be a very interesting workshop to have, Mary Lou. Very interesting to have. So one of the stories someone I work with told me was about her. She was helping a teacher in a school with a kid who was a joker, and the kid was always disrupting class by being such a joker. So the teacher thought about his strengths, and she called him in and said to him, you have wonderful sense of humor. And so what I'd like to offer you is if you can just kind of stay with the class and keep it down for the day, at the end of the day, I'll give you 5 minutes every day to entertain the class with your humor. And that kid changed overnight. I think that's just a lovely story. So let's say you're an old fogey like me. How can anyone draw on their top strengths to age well? Toss some ideas in here because I need them. I'm thinking about my love of learning has helped me because it's been helping me do a lot of research and read a lot of research and put things together, that kind of thing. And my sense of humor has been helping me to deal with when things get too difficult to find some way to lighten things around me. So I've been doing that, but I think my other strengths can be helpful. If I really start to think about them and use them. So please, if you can toss in some other ideas about how we can use our strengths, a timeless watch. Actually, I wear a Fitbit now, and I'm kind of wondering whether that's a good or bad idea. It's making me a little obsessive about my steps. Lear says, "It depends on how you think of your golden years. For me, it means more time to write, fall in love with life, and relax, savor the moments that we value." Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, yeah. But that means you can't teach all those classes, Lear. Anybody else have any thoughts? And question, how can we develop our weaker strengths? I want a better sense of humor. So we can, yeah, this is my final statement here. So before that, let's go to the question, how to develop your lower strengths, lower strengths. Uh, no, Val, it's, so anybody got any thoughts for Val? First of all, becoming aware that you want to do it is one thing. Secondly, starting with what what tickles you already. What makes you smile already, right? And what other strengths do you have that might help you with this? Yeah, maybe if you have other strengths, think about your other strengths. Puns help. Sometimes, sometimes watching YouTube videos of people with cats and babies helps. Lear's talking about, yeah, it's perspective, yeah, right. But humor is also a kind of connection with other people and with the universe, I think, and with a larger sense of life that makes you smile about the human condition. Yeah, if we can't smile about it, we're kind of lost. Taking joy in lighter moments, lots and lots of joy. That's part of humor, Val. I think you just haven't identified it. I've never thought of you as somebody who doesn't have a sense of humor. I've never thought of you that way. Although you can be musing in different ways through a type of writing, not just making jokes. Yes, exactly. To me, I say to people, whenever you read anything I write in Second Life, imagine a twinkle in my eye. Because I'm usually, whatever I'm saying, always is kind of has a little bit of humor to it. And Lear says, I hear from Art, Linkletter's children said the damnedest things, right? Irma Bombeck, right? Yeah. Have anybody ever read Judith Vior's books about each decade? She's written her last one is about being 80, I think, or being 90 maybe. And each of her books, Judith Vior's, if you look them up, they're great. I've got all of them. She started when she was 30, I think. She wrote a book for kids called Alexander No Good, Very Bad, Terrible, Awful Day or something like that. And then she wrote these books for adults. For and she, goes through all the things we experience as we get older and older and older. And what I'm saying and what I'm asking people to think about is just that you can, even if you do one small step, like if you really want to develop more self-regulation, I'm working on that in a way. I don't think I'm going to be great at it, but I do feel it's important. So I'm trying to think of every time I complete one small habit or step to go to the next one. And BJ Fogg, who's written a very good book about developing habits called Tiny Habits. It's like Atomic Habits, but it's called Tiny Habits. He's a professor at Stanford University. He talks a lot about every time you make a step, make a change, to celebrate it, because celebrating really reaffirms what you're doing. So I think that's a very helpful thing to use as a way to promote a change in yourself. So let me go back to my final statement because it's time to end. Very close here. And just what was my final statement? So I hope this hour has given you some ideas and motivation to use your strengths in conscious and new ways for continuous growth and delight. So thank you all for having come today. And if you have other thoughts about this or anything you want to say or ask or whatever, now is the time to do it. Another thing I think that makes me smile in Second Life is flying. So whenever I feel kind of down, I just start to fly. That helps with all my strengths on. Ah, thanks, Shiloh. Shiloh, you had a question. We have to come back. Did we kind of answer it? Uh, okay. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for helping make this nice, such a wonderful experience for me too. I love that group, Mary Lou, Women of Wisdom. Oh, this is here permanently. This is a permanent thing we use here all the time. I just wanted to introduce you to it, and I said I would like to improve it by having better objects. I like the butterflies. I won't get rid of those, but although I'm not sure which of if you have different strengths, I don't know which one that would go with, but maybe I'll ask for consensus here about. Yes, I'm so happy tomorrow. That should be a great celebration. You've done amazing work. The eclectic concept of the love train, right? Yeah, can you put the closing information in here, Val?
Open right here. Okay. BW MOOC. And here's the landmark to the close for Saturday right here. The closing, there'll be a dance tomorrow. Okay. Over on Chilbo.
There's always a dance, right?
Right, for the close of the MOOC. And there's a playlist with everything on it. If you missed anything, I can drop the playlist in as well. Let's see here.
I'm getting an alert here. Maybe we're having a tornado.
Oh no! Okay, here's the MOOC playlist in case you missed any of the sessions.
What's happening? Yeah, what is it an alert for? Yes. I'd like to know what the alert is, yes. Oh yeah, it's been raining like forever. Did I get an alert? I hope I you turned off the Zoom, right?
Yes,
My
yes.
top strength is creativity.
Zoom is over. Okay. Bye.
Good. Thank you all again. So, tornadoes where I am, not usually, but you never know, right? These days, tornadoes can appear anywhere. Earthquakes can appear anywhere. Your top strength is creativity. I'm so surprised, cats.
Well, it's easy to think outside the box when you don't have any boxes. Why do I keep running? I don't see that happening to everybody else. Seems to me all the time.
Okay. So if you have any thoughts about the park, please, about how to improve it, please let me know, okay? Bye-bye. I'm going to say goodbye. So I have to go over to, we have Ale has does his music program, which is very goofy and funny and wonderful. Now over on our lake performance stage. I have to find out what he's doing there. Yeah, me too. Okay. Thanks. You all made it very satisfying for me, so thank you for that. All right, I'm going to fly over. I guess I better change back to my normal Avi, right?
This one's kind of cute. I love the dress. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it worked well. I was amazed that it just popped in and out so fast.
Mm. I'm glad we have that canopy thing again. I like it.
Yeah, you said that. That's why I brought it back out. I think we'll have
Aw.
our meetings here for
Yeah.
the collective again.
Yeah, I liked it from the get-go.
Yeah.
So I guess I gotta go find the creativity thing and wear that.
Yeah, but maybe you can help me make some new stuff for them. Instead of having a book, I was desperate.